Let's go over for a moment what we the thesis, I think very subtle but profound thesis that Rav Tzadok put forth, and we learned a couple of days ago, is that there is a godless which can be developed in the pnimis of the person, and then there's a different godless which can be developed in the chitzonius of the person, and it's two different things. And it's really the difference between Yisrael v'Am Yisrael. So the good news is that when it comes to the pnimius, this is our strength. You see, we've all heard so many stories and seen so many demonstrations of the fact that Klal Yisrael is really can be really big in the pnimius. You see, people are willing to give their lives. People are willing to. When push comes to shove, I always say over the Chassid Yavitz, not the Yavitz or Gavin, but from the time of the Spanish Inquisition. He writes in his Pirush on Pirkei Avos, he says it's lefela be'enai. This is his lashon. It always struck me. Lefela be'enai, how he saw Jews that were completely, seemed to be completely assimilated, and even Machalei Shabbos, completely assimilated when they were given the choice by the inquisitors to become Christians or to be killed. They let themselves be killed. So that's the Maila of the Pnivius.
What's the pshat for you?
Because the Shab is very strong. On the other hand, let me add on to the Chassid Yavitz, we find many Jews became Moranos. So what are the Moranos? That they're chitzonius, they were Christians. So what's that with our big zero established Torah? It that apparently, this is the bad news, chitzonius is not our big strength. Like we don't care enough about the chitzonius to say, well, I'm not going to do that. It's chitzonius. So the avoda of Klal Yisrael is b'pnimius, and the avoda of the Umas Ha'olam, you see that l'maisa the Goyim are prettier than the Jews. It's supposed to be that way. The fashion district is supposed to be manned by Goyim, and the world of athletics and the world of beauty, Yafta l'kim liyefes. That should be Greek stuff. Should be Roman stuff.
That's because of what you said on Monday, right? Because Asa was Kitzonius and we were Yaakov.
Right, and exactly. I'm repeating that. So it's not even that they're fakers. It's that's the old way of understanding. The deep way of understanding is that it's real. Esav's head really was buried in the Mar Sabach pit. It was real. Noach gave a bracha to Yefes, Yafta l'kim liyefes. They should have Yofi. That was real. That's a real bracha. He didn't give a bracha. You should be a faker. He gave a bracha. Your strength is in the Yofi. Klal Yisrael, Shem Yishkoy ba'ohal le'Shem Yaakov. Yoshev Ohal, right? It was an inside job. It was all inside. But what happens then is that the as much as we're supposed to be beautiful on the chitzonius, we Jews, it's not necessarily the easiest thing for us. That's not our strength. Was I don't remember if I told you. I don't know who I told what. So forgive me. But I was beside Kedushin a couple of nights ago for a woman. Balas Tshuva from South Africa, and she was telling me, I told the story. She was telling me this how she became frum. I was being bodek her yichus. We're gonna go marry her. How she became frum. So she told me she was born not in Johannesburg or something like some borough part like that, but in Durban, which is strictly I'm told strictly a vacation area for Jews. No Jews actually. Not too many Jews actually live there. There's no community there. But she was there, and she didn't like Yiddishkeit, and her father wasn't Jewish, and her husband wasn't Jewish, but she was Jewish. She was Jewish, and she didn't like it. She didn't like Yiddishkeit. She went to shul a couple times. She didn't like it. But she ended up with her kids. You send your kids to the Jewish school so that they don't go to school with the Goyim over there back then. So she ended up at some kind of a school Shabbaton, and she said that she was in the Shabbaton there in I guess in Durban, and some kid came running around room to the different people at the weekend with tea lights to light Shabbos candles. So the person realized that she was sort of keneged. So this, your kids, if they want to light Shabbos candles, here's 2 tea lights. So she was like offended. Maybe my kids, it's supposed to be the mother's job, even though she never lit her, she lit her life, and her mother never lit Shabbos candles. So she never saw. But she knew it was supposed to be the mother's job. So I want to light Shabbos candles. So she gets her kids around her, and she takes the tea lights, and they came with a card, and she made the bracha. And as she this is what she told me. I'll tell you what she told me. As she lit the candles, she saw it was a very cerebral, scientific sort of a person. As she lit the candles, she looked at the candles and she saw a vision of her grandmother, I think she'd ever met, with her head covered, lighting candles. And she started to cry. And then the grandmother pointed behind her to her mother and her mother and her mother, all the way to Rachel Imeinu, lighting candles. And she became a Baal Tshuva with the vision. So there's a certain just a story that I heard a few days ago. This is a story of the penimius of the Kedushas Yisrael. Like, who knows where it's buried? Who knows where it is? But that's our strength. Our strength. That's the good news. The bad news is our strength is not always to the Chitzonius. Sometimes, as you said, we're depicted. The caricature of the Jew is not always a pretty side. Whereas the Goyim are pretty. They have, it's a bracha. Yafta l'kibli yafes. There is a certain beauty. Now it doesn't mean that they can't go here and we can't go there, but that's the etz of the way the mivleh of the neshamas. So when we say that David HaMelech, Kol Omer David HaMelech Choyte Eino Elotoya, that if you're mistaken, he did do a chet, he did do tshuva, he did do something which wasn't a nice thing. Clear. He spent his whole life trying to do tshuva for that chasard, but it was only, says Rav Tzadok, a chasard of the chitzonius. Like, we must know this yisoid, that bepnimius hadavar, there was kulei chesed, and that's why when Shlomo HaMelech needed the doors of the Beis HaMikdash, always a zechor chastei always. Okay, everybody, show like if there's a problem, the Shechina is not sure. There's a problem with Chitzonius, but let's look at the chesed. Let's look at what's deep inside of David HaMelech, and let's judge it that way. And the doors of the Beis HaMikdash open. So one doesn't necessarily loy bazel l'chaper al zeh. Doesn't necessarily, one doesn't justify the other, but understand that the chet wasn't a chet be'etzem. Jews can do a chet be'etzem. That's probably what it means to be chayiv kares. The Chayiv says that chayiv kares means when you're completely divorced from your neshama. Kares doesn't mean you don't have a neshama. It just means that you're completely cut off. It's not that I'm cut off from something outside of me. I'm cut off from something inside of me. That's what Rav Chaim Volozhin Nefesh Chaim describes krisis. There's a krisis. Now, how long can the plant go without water? How long will the goof work without the neshama behind it? You see that the goyim of this world, you become like a goy in that sense, detached. So how long do the goyim last? 100 years here, 300 years there, 500 years there. They don't last because if there's a good name, Kishkas are good, the neshama is good, they last forever. So that's why Netzach Yisrael, La Yishakir. The pretty ones amongst us, the Romans, the Greeks, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, it was beautiful, right? It was beautiful. Egypt was supposed to be a beautiful, beautiful place at the time. Did you hear the news yesterday that 200 Egyptians drowned in the Nile? How much Parshas B'Shalach? I mean, I'm not laughing. It's a Yondai Toiv B'Yad, but it's like a I wonder why in the Nile, not in the Yam Suf. Gosh. Yesterday there was some kind of an accident. I just happened to hear from the car. Anyways, okay, so that's the Pnim and the. So then we said Bilam va'amalek sharsham b'klipa achas. This, by the way, is the essence of the word klipa that we often use, the external part of it, which is not unimportant, and it's there to be shomer the pnim, which is the neshama of Klal Yisrael. It's the purpose of the klipa. That's the way it should work. Masa yaf yefusay shel yefes kishayishkoy ba'ahal leishem. That it wasn't just a bracha, independent brachas that Noach gave. The Gemara says that the whole yofi of yefes is kishayishkoy ba'ahal leishem. That yofi should be used to build the base of Mikdash. The yofi should be used to build the base of Mikdash. It's not going to get you shkina. It's not going to get that fire burning eternally, but it's certainly another chashuv.
It sounds like it's depending on us.
Depending on both. There has to be a symbiotic.
Maybe so that their real beauty will only be there once we do a real job ourselves.
Also true. Also true. I'm not sure if that's what the Chazal means. Chazal, it's only called Yofi if it's surrounding something beautiful. Like otherwise, it's like it says in Pirkei Avos, Perek Vav. It's Kenezem Zahav Ba'af Chazir. The Mishnah brings a pasuk. Nezem Zahav Ba'af Chazir. I mean, just put that picture in your mind for a second. Like an ugly, disgusting pig with a beautiful piece of jewelry on its nose. So it's not only doesn't really make the pig beautiful, but it's even laughable. Like, what are you putting on? It's a beautiful animal. It's a beautiful animal. So, Kach Isha Yafa Saras Tam. Same thing is like beauty skin deep.
It makes it sound like it's two independent things. So no, Yafa can be one thing. Hashem, he should use it for.
But the Gemara is Bakasher though. The Gemara says, because since it says Vav, Vi Yishkoid Ba'alei Shem, Vi Yishkoid Ba'alei Shem, is Basa Yaf Yefusa Shal Yafes, Kisha Yishkoid Ba'alei Shem. So the Gemara darshans from there that you're allowed to write a sefer Torah in Yavanis. Where'd that come from? You're allowed to write a sefer Torah. Doesn't mean Greek language. It means a Greek font.
Right.
A Greek font. So because Greek, very nice, very pretty. It's so pretty you can write a sefer Torah in it. But the words have to come from Shemayim, like in the Shema. So says Rav Tzadok, Bilam va'Amalek Sharsham b'klipa achas. I believe Bilam came from Shem and from Cham, and Amalek came from Esav. Bilam va'Amalek Sharsham, their Shursh, where they were coming from, was b'klipa achas, ki yadua, as it says in the Zohar. So to understand who a Navi Umay So'ilam, that Bilam was a Navi. Bilam, a Navi. Navi's not simple to be a Navi. Chazal call him a Navi, not a fake Navi. He was a real Navi. Navi Umay So'ilam, V'kam hu al davers and nismas einai. And why did he go blind in one eye? Say Chazal, Gemara Nida. Went blind, and why did he go blind? Right? Ani gever shesum ha'ayin. I'm blind in one eye. Why? Because he saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I read you the Gemara, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev v'Sefer v'Yoson Shal Yisrael. Looking at the Tashma Shabita of Klal Yisrael. And he says, Ma'as Kodesh v'Torah zeh. What's HaKadosh Baruch Hu looking at this v'Sefer Masay Yivolei Tzadik? When is a Tzadik going to be born? What's the Kodesh v'Torah looking at the Rabbi Yoson Shal Yisrael? So the interesting part about it is saw where? His crystal ball, where did he see? The answer is he had a nevuah. He did see. But what he did see was his nevuah itself was a chitzoniistic nevuah. He didn't understand the Oba Kadover. That's only a Jewish thing, to see something which the whole world considers not b'kedusha. Look at the Christian church. They're celibate. They consider it as a davar shel tzibah. So to see something which he was celibate, I presume. So to see something which from a chitzonius point of view is distasteful. He wasn't able to see the pnimius of the thing. So he was a shesumayin. One eye yes, one eye no. He was only halfway there. He saw the chitzonius, but he couldn't see the pnimius. But you see, he was a real Navi. Umistama, and probably Hayahahu, this Bilam was Mugdir B'Zeh Yoser. Probably he was very, very careful at the beginning, all of his life. He had a whole career as a prophet. And probably during his whole career, he was extremely Mugdir Ba'arayis. Celibate. He was a holy man. but it wasn't real. It was a plant without water. It wasn't real, meaning it didn't have a pneumius. That soifoi paretz geder arayis. We see that. Why? Ki b'amake levavai be'emes lokein. You see, it's very deep, even psychologically. Meaning, you see what you are. What you are is what you see. Isn't that true? When you have an argument with somebody, like it seems to me like it's always that person always assumes that you're like them. And he'll tell, well, I'm not like you. I don't do those kind of things. It's an assumption there that so Bilam, who had no pneumius, it was chetzonius, and it was to be mugdir ba'arayis from a chetzonius point of view. He looked at HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he said, what kind of a dirty thing is this that you're doing? Because he assumed Hashem is like him, but Hashem had the pneumius, where what the whole, and it is an amazing thing, what the whole Welt sees as a davar shel tumah, we see as a davar shel kedusha. Davar shel kedusha. I remember as a bacher in yeshiva, so you always had these guys, self-appointed mashkichim that would run to the hanhola of the yeshiva and say, this guy went to a movie, this guy's got a magazine in his room, this guy did this, I overheard a conversation of that, the spies, so the Meraglim, So I remember there was yeshiva once telling this guy used to do him every day, like how this guy did this guy did that. So I remember Rav Scheidberg telling him, just so stuck in my mind, he says, look, he says, some people like to do these things and some people like to talk about them. Okay. Bilam was also mugdir ba'arayis.
You see what's in your heart.
Right. So the heart. Neshama. Heart. My maki alev davar question. Eitzel Yisrael behepech. Klal Yisrael is an inside-out situation. My mamake halev davuk b'Hashem. From the inside, we're completely davuk b'Hashem. Avshalom loy kain boilam hazeh, but it's not necessarily, doesn't necessarily look that way. I'm adding necessarily. It doesn't look that way in olam hazeh. V'zehu, well, it doesn't look that way in olam hazeh. We don't have this strength. This is not our strength.
That's a big chisaron.
But this is, malchus. Midas hamalchus is when you can absorb it so much that it becomes part of what you are, and then you have chachmas adam toyer panov. But minastam, like a person who didn't work on himself. If you didn't work on yourself, so then you remain with a tremendous amount of toch and not necessarily any chitzon. You see, the Welt has the kasha that the Gemara says in order to get into the Beis Medrash by Rabbi Gamliel, so you have to be toichai kibare. Tocho kibaro. So the Welt has the kasha that if the hora'ah here, if Rabbi Gamliel's standard of excellence was that you can't be a hypocrite, which it sort of sounds like, like you have to be a substantial person, so there should have been that your baro kitocha, right? It should have been that what are you faking? What you are is what you. I am what I am. I mean, this is a real sort of a Western, certainly an American culture type of thing. This is what I am. Take it or leave it. I am what I am. Right? But in French, it's not this way, no. So it should be like don't. Like, I'm talking this way because this is what I am. I'm acting this way because this is what I am. I'm dressing this way because this is what I really am. Just take me for what I am. So that's all. If that was Rebbe Gamliel's benchmark, so then it should have been Barei K'toichai. So what's the Toichai K'barei? What he was looking for, the Talmidim, was that the beautiful Toich that every Jew has should have you done enough work on yourself that it's Chachmas Adam Torah Panav. Is it permeating? Is it out? Are you shining? So the other kasha, so that's why it says toicha kabar dabar ketoicha. The other kasha that everybody asks in the Gemara is, how is the Shomer HaPesach supposed to know if he's toicha kabara? Like, who was he? Eliyahu Navi? We had you put a Shomer HaPesach over here. You're only allowed to daven in this shul if you're toicha kabara. Okay, so who wants that job? Who's going to be the Shomer HaPesach? I certainly couldn't do it. So which gabbai is going to say who's toicha kabara? So if the pshat is that this gabbai, the Shabbos over here, has to go see the inside of the person talking, you need Eliyahu Navi. But if the pshat is he has to see, we know that they were all holy gishmakim. They're coming to learn after all. they're Klal Yisrael. He knew that they were all Heiluki Yidden. The shaila is, did you work on yourself so much so the chachmas adam tar panam, that you're shining? So this anybody could see the shine. That's how the Shomer HaPesach was able to know. Who can't see if a person is shining? Tar panam. Recognize it tzaddik. Recognize it tzaddik. You can see the ha'aris panam of a tzaddik. So he didn't have to know the toicha. The toicha was a given. It was a given. So Bilam and Amalek, and here's a chiddush here, that Amalek looked good. Amalek looked good. Amalek didn't look like a...
Okay, so said.
Yeah. I heard once that the I believe it was the Briskerov, if I'm not mistaken. I heard in Brisk, but I think it was the Briskerov or his father Reb Chaim. I'm not sure where, but they went someplace on kind of vacation or something, and they were right outside of a university in Lithuania, some type of university. And I believe the way it goes is the Briskerov said to his father Reb Chaim, they're looking at the window and they're looking at the students going to their classes and lectures. He says, "Look how beautiful! Look how beautiful that they are. They're dressed up and with ties and nice and fed. And they're walking straight and they're going like these guys got it together. Like they don't look like Asa. Not walking around with a bunch of guns. and it was a beautiful sight to see. So I remember that ha'ara that the Briskerov had. So Reb Chaim told him, "This is not our koach. This is not our koach." Although you look at the pictures of Yeshiva Bach from Europe, they look pretty good. But
Much better than today. So much better than today.
Much better than today. But because maybe our penius is better today. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows, really? Who knows? But everybody points to those pictures, Look, where'd you get that coat? Look at that hat, It's Gishrak. Okay. So we spoke on Monday about Olam Hafuch. And Olam Haba, it's taking the beged and turning it hafuch, turning it inside out. So now the Chetzonius is the previous is the Chetzonius. It's a mind-boggling idea. Everyone's going to walk around with their suits inside out and their skin inside out in Olam Haba. So now the Neshama is going to become the part that everybody sees in Olam Haba. Olam Haba includes Yemos HaMashiach. And what was until now the Marasayin, the Chetzonius, that's going to be someplace bifnim. Hidden. Yeah, well, it is beautiful inside. It's got an inner beauty. It's not going to be. V'zehu, now let's get into a interesting. V'zehu ha'hoifa nehar paran. So we said, by Mount Torah, the end of Dvar, hoifia mehar paran ba'asa meriv v'is kodesh eishtas lama. Hoifia, so the Gemara in Avodah Zarah says, the Shechina came to us from Paran, that's across the Sinai Peninsula. Har Seir is also on the other side. The Shechina came from the east. Har Seir and Har Paran. The Har of Esav and Paran was Yishmael. So the Gemara says, what was he doing? What was the Shechina doing by the Yishmael, and what was the Shechina doing by the Bnei Esav? So the Gemara tells us the famous story that he was offering them the Torah. There's an obek here. But on the way to Har Sinai, how about you? You want the Torah? You want the Torah? It's as much as we heard this medrash since we're born, it's what was he doing? But one thing the Gemara tells us clearly is that the Shechina came. Moshe Rabbeinu said the Shechina came from Esav and from Yishmael until it came to Klal Yisrael. And this, says the Zohar Befurish, unlike the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, says the Zohar Befurish, this was in order to create Yisrael Ha'ar ala Choshech. Yisrael Ha'ar min HaChoshech, quoted the Zohar before. Yisrael Ha'ar min HaChoshech is coming from Esav, you can see us shining. Coming from Zarach Meseir, Hoifia Meharpar. Coming from Yishmael, you could see us shining. Yisrael Ha'ar min HaChoshech. So it's not a steer to the Gemara. It's the same as the Gemara. The Gemara says, "How did he see us shining?" He asked him, "Do you want to stop killing?" No, it's not for us. But the point was that the Shekhinah going to the other places. So now let's look at it this way: the Shekhinah going to the Chitzonius, and then moving into the Pnimius. New way of seeing Mount Torah. Starting off with Har Seir, Har Paran, going from the Chitzonius and saying, "Do you want the Torah?" Our Chitzonius doesn't match with our Chitzonius. Doesn't match with our Chitzonius. Doesn't match with our Pnimius. So what did Esav say? What do you mean? Our Pnimius, Achar B'Chatichya. Our Pnimius is all about killing people. That's our Pnimius. So how can we have a Torah which says Lo Sirtzach? So Kadosh Baruch Hu challenged the Pnimius of Esav, said to Bnei Yishmael, are you willing to not be over Loisachmoid? Not be over Loisachmoid, we're Shakua B'Taiva. So Kadosh Baruch Hu challenged, cut through the Chitzonius and challenged the Pnimius of these nations. And when it came to Klal Yisrael, it was a Nasa v'Nishma. Our Pnimius is okay. If you're talking about our Pnimius is okay. Our Chitzonius was still bullying Engel as well, but our Pnimius is okay. So now let's that's the Zoharic addition to the Gemara of the Zohar base.
What made it okay?
What made what okay?
Our Pnimius.
Because
What did we have over?
Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov.
So what did we have over? So it was only what we had over Esav,
Right.
which was.
What do you mean? In other words, the Birur Hamidos that the Avos did.
So then it was only Yaakov.
Right.
And what was it that Yaakov? So what is it? And what?
So in other words, Yaakov was Yerush the Pnimius. The bracha went to the Pnimius.
What did it have to do with the Bechara, though? I mean, it seems like it's always the younger one that has the Pnimius.
It's a good question. Actually tonight at the women's shiur, I just want to discuss exactly this.
Okay.
This whole Indian of Bechar and Levi.
Yeah.
But for this moment,
Okay.
it's still early in the day. Is Rav Tzadok's Ludiyah? What does it mean? V'zarach meseir lamai v'hoifia mehar para. Is that the order? Hoifia mehar para v'zarach meseir lamai. Which? How many times did you lay this? Like 10,000 times. Look, take a look. Anyways, what's the difference between Hoifia and V'zarach? Let's just do a little language here. When it came to Har Paran Yishmael, Hoifia, what's the difference between Hoifia and Har? What's the pasuk exactly? Okay. So V'zarach Miser Elam. My first thing went to Esav, and there he was Zarach. Coming from Esav, we were a Zricha.
It's coming from the source, Zarach, just like.
Right. First of all, it's east. Yeah, but that's the Zarach, like the Zricha. But the Obek Kapshat is that we shined when he came from Esav, and V'zarach, we shine, the Shekhinah shine, and Hoifia, there was a Haifa from Har Paran, from Yishmael. So what's the difference between a Zricha and a Haifa? Haifa means a showing. Zricha means a shining.
The difference between the sun and the moon, one is a reflection.
So why would Yishmael be a reflection?
Yeah.
But clearly a dimmer,
Right.
clearly a dimmer manifestation of meaning, who is dimmer? Klal Yisrael did not shine as much compared to Yishmael as we shine compared to Esau. This is different for shame. There was less of a zricha.
Shmuel did tshuva, first of all.
So did Esau maybe, but and Esau's head was buried in the Mars Machpelah. So let me tell you a little bit about Haifa, just background here, what the word means.
Is it referring to Bnei Yisrael or Hashem?
Well, it's both because that's what the Ki Yisrid Ha'ar B'nai Choshech, that there was the zricha came from Klal Yisrael. The Zarach, the Shechina was shining now. Oh, boy, I just gave a raise if you guys are good. So the Shechina was shining when it was reflecting through Klal Yisrael.
It sounds like
As this beam, this holy beam of the Shechina was traveling, came from Esau, Klal Yisrael, the Shechina and Klal Yisrael shined.
it sounds like a parade, like a sefer Torah, like he's walking past everyone saying to them, "This is what you could have had."
Okay.
So does that make sense? Is that possible?
Getting to the tzaddik.
Getting to the Sinai, yeah.
Getting to the tzaddik.
Getting to Yosef, the flame.
And so when he passes, it has different impressions on those who are passing. To
Right.
Esau, we look greater, but to Yishmael, as it passes through.
So why?
Yeah.
So, what does Haifa mean? I'll tell you one more thing, Moshe. Does there happen to be a Rosh Hashanah Machzor here? No? That's funny. Where would it be? Okay.
There might be one back there.
Where?
I just want to show you something very interesting.
Inside the room or in the hall?
Haifa, the word Haifa.
You need the Musaf or
Musaf.
Oh, Musaf's in the right Musaf.
Okay. Thank you. You think?
Isn't it?
It's definitely in
Somebody else used to know.
Yeah. Here we go. And you have one that's only on Shafars. No, I only on Shafars. I figured by most of you got a monster.
here it is.
Just kedai to see. And Musaf, Zichroinai Shofrais Malchios. So by the Shofrais, here's the same story. Atani Glesa Ba'anan Koidecha. You were revealed with an Anan Alam Kachecha L'daber Imam. So where is that talking about? Har Sinai. So you revealed yourself to us at Har Sinai. Min HaShamayim Hishma Tom Koilecha. And from Shamayim we heard your voice. B'niglesa Aleim Ba'arpelei Toyar. Right. You revealed yourself in clouds of purity. The whole world was shaking. This is a description of Har Sinai. Why are we saying it here? Each one of these, I'm sure, is really important, every distinction. But you were mashmiya, the hoid of your call, like flames of fire. There was thunder, there was lightning. Ubekol shofar, Har Sinai, there was a kol shofar, aleim hoifata. And kol shofar, there was a haifa. Kakosu b'sarisecha, Vayhi bayom hashlishi b'yos haboker v'yikol zubrokim b'anun kavod alohar v'kol shofar kazah ma'oid Vayechri kol asher b'merachane, vayi kol asher v'hoylech v'chazek ma'oid, Moshe Daber, v'letim yanenu b'kol, kol amroim as-hakolos, as-alapidim, as-kol ha-shefer, v'as-har-ashen, v'yaram v'yanu, v'yamdu, ne'rachek. So there's a distinction here between Niglesa and Haifata. Very similar to the distinction between the Zorach Miser Lomai Haifia Mehar Paran. So what is the Haifata that we're referring to? What does it mean? What does the word mean? So let's do a makar for understanding the word is in Shmos, where it says that there were two midwives, Shifra and Pua. Pua was really Miriam. Pua, Maza Pua. That's a funny name, Pua.
The baby, Rashi says, right?
Oh, she mefapas es havlad. Mefapas es havlad. She cooed
Right.
the baby. Pua. Says Rashi, if you look at the Chazal of Rashi, the Avodah Zarah Briggs, that what's Pua? It's a lashon of haifa. Tchilas diburei shel adam nikra haifa. The baby talk. When you first start talking, that's called Pua. Why is Pua? Ooh, you know, what are those sounds? That's Tchilas diburo shel adam. That's words, but they're not words. They're not articulate words. So there's no enunciation. There's no syllables. But they're words. They're baby talk. That's Pua. Shebefapas es ha vlad. So medaber say Chazal ve'enoi medaber. It is dibur. It's not dibur. That's what haifa is. Meaning that it's talk, but it's not clarity. So there's sort of a cloudy expression. So v'zarach har seir, Esav, that was very clear. The distinction between the penimius and the chitzonius there, between Esav and Yaakov, between Klal Yisrael and Amalek, was very clear. Clear. But when it came from to Yishmael, it was a haifa. It was murky. It wasn't as clear. I'll get back to this in a second. He says, Haifia zeh haifa be'arpard b'Yishmael hashkuim b'taivos. Why was it murky? Because we're also shkuim b'taivos. Whereas Esav, there's a very clear distinction. But we learned before that a zav doesn't get evicted from the Machne Yisrael because a zav comes from Taiva, and we say that's not a chasard ba'etzem. So if it's not a chasard ba'etzem, so we're shkuim b'taivos, and Yishmael is shkuim b'taivos. So maybe we're not killing anybody like Yishmael, but shkuim b'taivos. Maybe we're not b'nei Esav. We're not Nazis. But shkuim b'taiva. So now the distinction between Yishmael and Klal Yisrael is much more subtle. So a subtle distinction, a subtle language is called a haifa.
Where do we see Klal Yisrael shkuim in China?
What do you mean? What do you mean? The whole existence of the midbar was misleaded and as far as hadaga.
No, it's different types.
Yeah, misleaded means bali taiva. That's what we're doing.
No, I mean different types than Yishmael.
Yecholim, the Seder, and a different type of taiva, and that's where this is where we're getting very docustic, which we're going to have to we'll have to pick it up on Sunday. The point is the difference between Yishmael and Klal Yisrael was not as stark, it wasn't as black and white as the difference between Esav and Yisrael. So let me just while we're here, I just want to be mafarish. Therefore, Yishmael did tshuva. The Zohar says Gimel Haifa is saying. Gimel Haifa is saying. One Haifa is when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Adam. One Haifa was at Yetzias Mitzrayim, and a third Haifa is by Har Sinai. So Medrash Yalkut Shimoni brings right here by Hoifia Mehar Para. Shleisha Haifa is saying. What is it? What's it? Brias HaAdam, Kadosh Baruch Hu is Hoifia. And then La Silavai Kel Nekamis Hashem Kel Nekamis Hoifia. The three Haifais work like this, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a neshama to Klal Yisrael, so he vayipach ba'apav nishmas chaim. So it's the medrash that all these three haifais and the haifa ba'asid are all the kol shofar. The kol shofar by Brias Adam was HaKadosh Baruch Hu blowing into the nostrils of man. Took the pnimios and gave him took the chitzonius and gave him a pnimius. Imruchi gviyasi Hashem li v'lo yira. Imruchi gviyasi Hashem li v'lo yira. So the haifa of HaKadosh Baruch Hu was blowing shofar ki'ilu into the nostrils of Adam Arishan. He blew the neshama. Meaning that when you're blowing a shofar, it's coming from the deepest part of you. You're not just going woo 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 like a wind instrument. It's coming from the deepest part. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is coming from the deepest part. That's called a haifa. We have to get back to why that's called a haifa. The same thing for the kishkas, mamash into us, and the same thing at Grace Yamsuf, not our subject right now, at Har Sinai. So therefore, who was blowing shofar at Har Sinai? HaKadosh Baruch Hu was blowing shofar at Har Sinai, meaning again he was injecting a national neshama by Yetzias Mitzrayim and a neshama of Torah at Har Sinai. Gimel Hashba is saying, Kulam b'shofar, everyone was b'shofar. And la'asalave, when Mashiach comes, Yitaka b'shofar gadol. There's going to be another, so these are all HaKadosh Baruch Hu blowing shofar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is blowing shofar, he's blowing man l'nafach midilei kanafach his ruchnias into us. It's like unbelievable. Why do we mention this on Rosh Hashanah? The answer is because what we're doing on Rosh Hashanah when we're davening and we're blowing shofar is we're taking the neshama and we're expressing it out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the very neshama that HaKadosh Baruch Hu blew into us when we were created at Har Sinai. It's the very hafacha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put in us, that we're saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we don't know about our chitzonius. I don't know if we're doing the right thing on the chitzonius, but our pnimius is there. Our pnimius is mamish there, and that's the blowing of the shofar. I heard once that, maybe it's famous, but I heard it with my ear, that Rav Soloveitchik explained that Soloveitchik explained the tkiyah shofar at the end of Yom Kippur. So he said that his regesh is, by the way, usually when his regesh was mamish like deep in Kabbalah, I find. This is my, whether he knew it or not. But he said that, this whole season here, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we bowed, we fasted, we put on white, we did this, we did that, we said al chet, we clapped. So many things, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we're finished. There's nothing more that we can do, and we blow this Tekiah Gedolah. At the end, it's an expression that we just don't. There's no more gashmias to do. There's no more chitzonius to do. We can't fast anymore. We can't eat fish heads anymore. We can't wear white anymore. What can we do anymore? We could take the deepest part of us, and that's why it's a Tekiah Gedolah. He said the Tekiah Gedolah is ad sheyichla ruach, until you have no more. We're taking our inside things we don't even know how to express, how to articulate. That's what we're coming to at the end of the whole season. That's the ends the season. So it's just look at the inside. Again, that's our shofar on Rosh Hashanah. That's a HaKadosh Baruch Hu shofar, and all of that's called a haifa. So we need to get back to Yishmael, but let's understand this: that haifa refers to the pnimius. And since Yishmael has more pnimius than Esav, because we're shkuim b'taivas, they're shkuim b'taivas, they're meeting, but they're so different, which he's going to explain. But what we do need to understand is that we master the pnimius. Our job is to sum it up, tocho kibaro. Our job is to make the pnimius blossom into chitzonius. The job of the Esav is to take the chitzonius that they have and use it to help the pnimius. Because I don't know if they can get pnimius, unless gerus. But it's to help the pnimius, to shelter, to beautify. That's the job. So then everybody's doing their job. You have a matzav of geula and a matzav of Mashiach. Geula, the Malbim says, is a lashon of revelation, gal, gilui. So the geula It's like the Megillah, also a Lashon of Gal. That's why it's rolled like that, reveal. So the Megal and the star. So the whole idea is to find the pneumius and to build it out. We can't suffice with that, but right now he's just dissecting the science of it. Science of it is this is the ish pnimi and this is the ish chitzai.
Interesting, the shofars at Yericho, with Yehoshua, also to reveal what's inside the city.
Yeah.